This is Van Hill Road. It's about 9.5 miles from the Wells family home on Ben Hill Road, where Summer was reported missing. As you can see, there are posters here with her information on them.
Guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the investigation, and welcome back to what is undeniably the most critical, the most explosive, and the most game-changing update we have ever had in the Summer Wells case. I need you to listen to me, and I need you to listen closer than you have ever listened before. I want you to put down whatever you are doing. If you are driving, pull over. If you are working, take a break. If you are scrolling through comments, stop. Because what we are about to discuss today is not just a theory. It is not just a rumor. It is not just some internet speculation that we pulled out of thin air. We are talking about confirmation. We are talking about specifics. We are talking about the missing piece of the puzzle that we have been hunting for since June of 2021. For years, we have sat here. We have looked at the map. We have looked at the interviews. We have analyzed the body language. We have argued about the timeline. We have argued about the parents. We have argued about the neighbors. And always, in the background, there was this lingering question, this shadow of a doubt about a vehicle. Was there a truck? Was there a car? Was it red? Was it maroon? Was it a delivery driver? Was it a neighbor? The days of guessing are over. The days of maybe are dead and buried. Newly confirmed information, and I want to stress that word, confirmed, reveals that the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, has officially tracked down a specific vehicle of interest. We are not talking about a generic red pickup anymore. We are done with generic descriptions. We have a make, we have a model, we have a color, and we have a name. We are talking about a red Toyota Tacoma. Let that sink in for a second. A red Toyota Tacoma. Not a Ford. Not a Chevy. A Toyota Tacoma. That is a very specific truck. It has a very specific profile. It has a very specific sound. And we know who owned it. This isn't just a ghost truck. This truck had a driver. It was owned by a tree trimmer named Randy. A man who is now directly, undeniably connected to the property that was searched on Van Hill Road. And here is the detail that sends shivers down my spine. Here is the detail that makes me realize just how close we are to the truth. This truck? This red Toyota Tacoma that is at the center of the investigation? It was sold in 2022. Why? Why do you sell a truck in 2022? The disappearance happened in June of 2021. 4 months, the heat was on. The police were everywhere. The roadblocks were everywhere. And then, as the case starts to go cold, as the media trucks start to leave, as the world starts to look away, the truck gets sold. It gets moved. It gets scrubbed from the record. You do not sell a vehicle that is connected to a crime unless you are trying to sever that connection. You do not get rid of a work truck, your livelihood, unless that truck has become a liability. Unless that truck holds secrets that you cannot afford for anyone to find. This vehicle tip was the direct, credible lead that prompted the November 2025 FBI search. We all remember that search. We covered it right here on this channel. The 27 acres on Van Hill Road, the helicopters, the K-9 units, the ground-penetrating radar. We knew they were looking for something. We knew they didn't just wake up one morning and decide to raid a farm on Van Hill Road for fun. They had a reason, and now we know the reason. They were looking for traces of that red Toyota Tacoma. They were looking for traces of Randy. They were looking for the link that ties the tree trimmer to the little girl who vanished into thin air. But we have to go back. We have to rewind the clock. We have to go back to that day. June 15th, 2021. The day the world stopped. Because this new information, this confirmation of the red Tacoma, it completely changes how we look at the witnesses. Specifically, it changes how we look at Jody Sue. Jody Sue, the neighbor, the pariah, the woman that the internet tried to destroy, the woman that the trolls tried to silence. How many videos were made calling her a liar? How many comments were written saying she was crazy, that she was making it up, that she just wanted attention? Well, who is crazy now? Who is the liar now? Jody Sue reported, from the very beginning, seeing a suspicious red flash of a vehicle on the Wells driveway the afternoon Summer vanished. She didn't say she saw a white van. She didn't say she saw a black sedan. She said she saw a red flash. Think about that description. A flash. What does a flash imply? It implies speed. It implies sunlight reflecting off metal. It implies a vehicle moving fast in a place where vehicles usually move slow. That driveway is treacherous. It is steep. It is narrow. You have to crawl up it. But she saw a flash. That tells me the driver was in a hurry. That tells me the driver knew the terrain well enough to gun it. Or the driver was panicking. And if she saw a red vehicle, and the FBI is now hunting a red Toyota Tacoma. Do the math. Just do the basic math. Jody Sue wasn't hallucinating. She wasn't seeking attention. She was witnessing the crime of the century. She was seeing the abduction vehicle leaving the scene. She was seeing the last known movement of Summer Wells, encased in that red metal. This new focus on a vehicle is not just a random pivot. It is consistent. It is scientifically consistent with the early investigative conclusions that we have been screaming about for years. We have to talk about the dogs. We have to talk about the scent dogs. I feel like I have talked about these dogs 1,000 times, but today it hits different. Today it means something more. The dogs never lied. The handlers told us. The reports told us. The dogs picked up Summer's scent at the house. They tracked her down the hill. They tracked her to the edge of the driveway to the road. And then, the scent stopped. It didn't fade. It didn't meander off into the woods. It didn't loop back to the house. It stopped. It terminated. Physics tells us that a child does not evaporate. Biology tells us that a scent trail does not just cease to exist unless the source of that scent leaves the ground. If she walked into the woods, the scent would be in the woods. If she walked down the road, the scent would be down the road. But the scent stopped at the asphalt. That suggests, that strongly, powerfully suggests, that she was transported away. She was lifted. She entered a vehicle. And what vehicle fits the description? What vehicle fits the timeline? What vehicle fits the red flash seen by the neighbor? The red Toyota Tacoma. It fits. It fits like a glove. It fits so perfectly that it makes you angry that it took this long to put it together. The dogs told us, vehicle. The neighbor told us, red vehicle. And now the FBI is telling us, red Toyota Tacoma owned by a tree trimmer. And there is always a but in this case. There is always a twist. There is always a piece of evidence that doesn't belong. And this is where we have to be honest. This is where we have to be real investigators, not just cheerleaders for a theory. This vehicle abduction theory creates a direct conflict. It creates a massive, glaring, undeniable conflict with other early evidence. We cannot ignore the footprints. We cannot ignore the reports of child-sized footprints found further down Ben Hill Road. We cannot ignore the scent alerts that were reportedly found deep in the woods, miles away, during the initial search. If she got into a truck at the end of the driveway, how did her footprints get further down the road? If she was whisked away in a red Tacoma by a tree trimmer named Randy, how did the dogs get a hit on a scent trail in the rugged terrain behind the house? This is the paradox. This is the headache. This is the wall that the TBI hit. This is the wall that the sheriff hit. And this is the wall that we have been banging our heads against for 4 years. How can she be in the truck and on the road at the same time? How can she be abducted and wandering off at the same time? They cannot both be true. It is physically impossible. You cannot be in two places at once. So we have to reevaluate. We have to look at this with fresh eyes. Is it possible that the footprints were not hers? Is it possible that the footprints were misidentified? We know it is rural Tennessee. We know there are other kids. We know there are animals. Could a raccoon track look like a child's footprint in the mud? Could an old print from a week prior be mistaken for a fresh one? Or, and this is the darker theory, the more sinister theory, were the footprints a red herring? Were they planted? Did someone want the police looking in the woods? Did someone want the search parties scouring the ravines and the cliffs? Because every minute the police spent looking at footprints in the mud was a minute they weren't looking for a red Toyota Tacoma on the highway. Distraction. Misdirection. Sleight of hand. If the truck is the truth, then the footprints are the lie. If the truck is the key, then the woods are the decoy. And we have to talk about the timeline. The timeline is the enemy of the stranger abduction theory. It is the enemy of the random act. If an abductor in a red Toyota Tacoma drove up that driveway, we have to talk about the driveway. Have you seen videos of Ben Hill Road? Have you seen the drone footage of that driveway? It is not a highway. It is not a place you just accidentally turn into. It is steep. It is rough. It is private. If Randy drove his Tacoma up that driveway, it implies a prearranged meeting. You don't just drive up there to sell cookies. You don't just drive up there to turn around. If a tree trimmer was up there, he was either there to trim trees or he was there because he knew he could be there. Was he expected? Did he know the family? Did he know the schedule? Did he know that at that precise moment, Candace was planting flowers? Did he know that Grandma was in the camper? Did he know that Don was at work? You cannot pull off an abduction in a red truck on a dead-end road in the middle of the day without knowing the lay of the land. It implies knowledge. It implies familiarity. Was Randy a friend? Was he an acquaintance? Was he someone who had worked there before? Why was a tree trimmer on the property if no trees were being trimmed that day? And then we have to talk about the destination. We have to talk about where the truck went. The investigation led the FBI to Van Hill Road, to a 27-acre property owned by Paul Hill, a relative connected to Randy. And we have to talk about what that property is. We have to be adults here. We have to face the grim reality of what we are dealing with. That property has a history as a pig farm. I know. I know you don't want to hear it. I know it makes you sick to your stomach. It makes me sick to say it. But we look for the truth, not for comfort. A pig farm introduces a grim, terrible, plausible alternative theory for disposal. We have searched the woods. We have searched the ponds. We have searched the caves. And we have found nothing. No shoes. No clothes. No hair. No bones. Nothing. It is as if she vanished. But if the focus has shifted to a pig farm, it explains the lack of a body. It explains why the forensic evidence is so hard to find. It explains why the dogs might have been confused if biological material was mixed with animal material. It makes the lack of a body more plausible. And it makes the silence from the authorities even more deafening. Because if they suspect this, if they believe this is what happened, then proving it is a nightmare. Proving it requires a level of forensic excavation that takes months, years. And maybe that is why Detective John Pute looked the way he did. We have to remember lead Detective John Pute. Think back to 2022. Think back to that interview he gave. He sat there and he looked broken. He looked defeated. He looked like a man who carried the weight of the world on his shoulders and knew he was losing. His despondent 2022 interview highlights the case's stagnation early on. At the time, we thought he was just tired. We thought he was just frustrated with the parent. But looking back now, with the knowledge of the red Tacoma, with the knowledge of the sold truck, I think he knew. I think he knew back then that they had missed the vehicle. I think he realized, too late, that while they were chasing footprints in the woods, the red Tacoma was driving away. He knew that the lead had gone cold before they even found it. He knew that the truck had been sold, the evidence had been washed, and the trail had evaporated. That is why he looked despondent. Because he knew they had been outsmarted. He knew they had been outmaneuvered. That interview makes the recent vehicle lead the most significant development in years. It is the redemption arc. It is the second chance. It is the moment where the case comes back to life. But look at the TBI. Look at the official stance. Look at how the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has handled this public narrative. As of mid-2024, the TBI remained deliberately split. They played both sides. They wouldn't commit. They stood up at press conferences and said, well, it could be an abduction, but it also could be that she wandered off and got lost. They kept a foot in both camp. Why? Because they didn't have the truck. They didn't have Randy. They had conflicting evidence. They had the dogs saying one thing and the footprints saying another. And because they couldn't reconcile that conflict, because they couldn't figure out which one was real, they refused to take a stand. They showed no single clear path, because they were lost in the woods just like everyone else. But that deliberate split, that refusal to commit, it hurt the investigation. Because while they were telling the public, maybe she wandered off, the public was looking in the woods. If they had come out day one and said, we are looking for a red Toyota Tacoma, maybe someone would have spotted it. Maybe someone would have rung in a tip about Randy. Maybe someone would have noticed a neighbor scrubbing out the bed of his truck. By staying split, by refusing to name a vehicle, they allowed the trail to go cold. They allowed the truck to be sold. But now, the research forces a reevaluation. It forces us to tear down the entire board and start over. The research now forces a reevaluation of all prior evidence. Every statement Jody Sue made needs to be rewatched. Every statement Don made about vehicles needs to be rewatched. Every timeline needs to be adjusted. The central question, the only question that matters, the question that is the difference between justice and a cold case, is whether the vehicle evidence or the footprint evidence points to the true sequence of events that day. We are at a crossroads. Path A, the footprints are real. She wandered off. The dogs were wrong. The red flash was a coincidence. And she is somewhere in the woods, undiscovered. Path B, the vehicle is real. The dogs were right. The red flash was the abduction. The footprints were a distraction. And she was taken to Van Hill Road. I am looking at the evidence. I am looking at the new confirmation from the FBI. I am looking at the specific detail of the 2022 sale. And I am telling you, Path B is the only one that makes sense. Path B is the only one that fits the behavior of a guilty party. You don't sell your truck if a kid wanders into the woods. You sell your truck if the kid was in your truck. You don't blur a map of a farm if a kid wandered into the woods. You blur the map if the farm is the crime scene. We have to focus on Randy. We have to focus on the tree trimmer. Who is he? Who is he connected to? How did he know the family? I have been digging. I have been on the forums. I have been looking at the public records. And the connections are starting to form. The web is starting to become visible. This isn't just a stranger. This isn't just a random crime of opportunity. A tree trimmer has a reason to be places. A tree trimmer has a reason to have a truck. A tree trimmer has a reason to be on private property. It is the perfect cover. Oh, I was just looking for work. Oh, I was just checking the lines. But you don't check lines on a dead-end road unless you are called there. And if he was called there, who called him? That is the next question. That is the next phase of this investigation. If Randy is the who, then we need the why and the how. Was he working alone? Or was he the transport? Was he the cleaner? The pig farm theory suggests disposal. But disposal for who? For himself? Or for someone else? These are dark questions. These are heavy questions. But we owe it to Summer to ask them. We owe it to that little girl to not look away just because the truth is ugly. The official stance from the TBI might have been split, but our stance is not. Our stance is united. We follow the evidence. We follow the truck. I want you to think about that red flash. I want you to close your eyes and imagine that driveway. Imagine the sun hitting the hood of a red Toyota Tacoma. Imagine the dust kicking up as it speeds away. Imagine the sound of the tires on the gravel. That was the moment. That was the window. And for 4 years we missed it. For 4 years we were looking at the trees when we should have been looking at the road. But we aren't missing it anymore. The FBI isn't missing it anymore. The sale of that truck in 2022 is the smoking gun. It is the attempt to destroy evidence. It is the consciousness of guilt. And now that we know about it, now that the cat is out of the bag, the clock is ticking for everyone involved. You can sell a truck, but you can't sell the memory. You can blur a map, but you can't blur the truth. I am going to keep digging into this Van Hill Road property. I am going to find out everything there is to know about Paul Hill. I am going to find out everything there is to know about Randy. I am going to find the bill of sale for that Tacoma. I am going to find out who bought it. I am going to find out where it went. And I need your help. If you are in Tennessee, if you are in the area, if you know a Randy who worked as a tree trimmer, if you know anyone who bought a red Tacoma in 2022, you need to speak up. You need to call the tip line. You need to send an email. Do not assume the FBI knows everything. Do not assume they have all the pieces. They need us. They need the eyes of the public. They need the army. This is the actionable new phase. This is the moment where we move from what happened to we know what happened. Summer Wells was taken. She was taken in a red truck. And we are coming for that truck. The conflicts in the evidence are resolving. The timeline is clarifying. The fog is lifting. It turns out the neighbor was right. Turns out the dogs were right. Turns out the gut instinct that something evil came up that driveway was right. We just had to wait for the science to catch up. We just had to wait for the tip to come in. And now it is here. I want to leave you with this thought. Justice delayed is not justice denied. Not yet. As long as we are still talking about it, as long as we are still looking, there is hope for justice. Maybe not hope for a happy ending. I think we passed that point a long time ago. But hope for truth. Hope for closure. Hope that the people who did this, the people who drove that truck, the people who hid on that farm, the people who lied to the cameras, hope that they will face the consequences of their actions. The red Toyota Tacoma. Remember that. Write it down. Share it. It is the key to everything. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying with me on this deep dive. I know it is heavy. I know it is a lot of information, but it is the most important information we have ever had. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell. Because when the next update drops, when the next name drops, you are going to want to be here. We are not going anywhere. We are just getting started. Justice for Summer Wells. I will see you in the next one. Stay safe. Stay vigilant. And keep your eyes on the road.